Hello, everybody. This is Eric Virathaler of Virathaler Studios back again for the next episode of Sit Down by the Fire. I'm here with my next special guest. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Emma Sumlin.
Hi, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to be here today.
Of course, thank you.
Yeah, of course. So, how about you tell my audience what exactly is it that you do?
I am an actress, screenwriter, writer in general of novels and things such as that, and I direct movies.
Awesome. So, what exactly started your journey with all that?
I think the passion really started when I was about 6 years old, and I started watching the behind the scenes for like the movie Enchanted and Tinkerbell and Star Wars. I was into all that stuff, and like what 6 year old watches behind the scenes, but I did. And I remember watching like the little kids in the live action movies and being like, they just get to play for a job, like they get to play pretend, and I wanted to do that. And I wasn't like allowed to really be in any films until I was 18, but my parents very much encouraged me to work on my craft through my childhood. So when I did turn 18, I started really getting into it, and I started acting, and I've never looked back. I love it so much.
Yeah, and then that all-time saying goes that the rest is history, right?
It's true.
So yeah, and when you said about watching the behind the scenes, that's the exact same thing that I did. And it's a real
Hmm.
shame that a lot of bonus features that I've seen on a lot of Blu-rays now, they just don't feel the same anymore. A lot of them just feel
Yeah.
rushed.
Yeah. And I want to be like enthralled and like captivated by the behind the scenes. Like I don't want it to be quick cuz I want to sit there and watch it for like an hour.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's what happened to me after I saw Jaws for the first time, and I loved it. And then I was like, man, I want to know how was it like to make the movie. And
Yeah.
according to my research, making Jaws was not a fun experience.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah, and honestly, there's even sometimes where even the behind the scenes story is actually more interesting than to watch the film itself.
That's true cuz then you feel like you're there with them, and it's the process that makes it so much more interesting.
Oh yeah, exactly, yeah. And so yeah, and I mean, I totally do understand why they're your parents. Like, we're just trying to, like they're just being parents. They're just wanting you to be safe and all that. So that's
Absolutely.
probably why that they didn't allow you to do any of that until you were 18.
Yeah, and I don't regret that actually because I really did get a childhood, and I got to be creative and learn what I love. And so when I was ready when I was 18, I was prepared, and it wasn't like I was going into it blindly. Like I knew who I was before going into this stuff.
So yeah, and so out of all the projects you have done, acting wise, what would you say was your favorite one?
I don't know. Each one has had like a different aspect of like some of them were like not as big of a scale, but I had better connections with the people on it, so it made it fun.
Right.
And then some of them were super professional, and I think my most professional one that I've done is a TV show called Bounty. It's not out yet, but I played like a
Okay.
bartender, and I got to act with the leads, and these actors had been in very prominent things, and so it was really exciting to just be there and like learning from them, but also getting to like be on a professional film set with like tons of cameras and makeup artists, and it was incredible.
Oh yeah. That sure sounds awesome. So, do you know when that show will premiere?
I do not. I've been trying to find out. I know that they are probably in the midst of editing the season, and so hopefully, I can't say when, but they had said it would be at the end of this year, like a year ago. So we'll see.
Okay. Yeah. But yeah. As soon as you hear anything about it, yeah, definitely let me know. And yeah, and I definitely will promote it on my Facebook, YouTube, and all forms of social
Well,
media. So
thank you.
yeah, certainly, of course. But yeah, editing. I understand that takes a lot of time and patience.
It
It's
does.
and especially if you don't understand the software. But yeah, you really need good software like for editing. Like
It's
I,
true.
tr- yeah, like I tried After Effects once. It's pretty complex.
Uh huh.
So yeah, and so if you don't understand the software, it's gonna take a lot longer.
Oh yeah, I think they've got professional people on it, but I know it does take a while, especially with a TV show, like having to edit each single one. It isn't easy.
Certainly, yeah. Well, I definitely wish them the best of luck on all that.
Yeah.
So yeah, so talk about some of your other acting experiences that you have enjoyed.
Yeah, I think my first kind of step through the door on the film side, because I had done theater growing up, and so my first time ever on a film set was for a student film at UTA. It was a master's thesis film, and so it was a lot more like involved. There's a lot more like professionalism with it, and it was so amazing, like a wonderful first time experience. I felt everything was very very professional, and I had so much fun. It was about this girl, and she was a 14-year-old girl, and she was moving away from her best friends and just like dealing with like not wanting to accept that, but in the end accepting that this was a chapter that needed to be closed and that she was moving on to another part of her life. And I had related so much because I had just moved from my best friends, and so it really was relatable, and I had so much fun diving into that character. I typically play younger roles because I look younger, and so I was 18 then, and then got to play a 14-year-old. So that was really fun. And then I did another UTA horror film, which was fun to kind of uh, like learn those parts of myself of just like the more emotional. It was a lot more emotional than the first one was, and so I learned a lot on that set as well.
Awesome, yeah, and I mean, as far as casting older people to play younger people, a lot of film makers actually do that. One of the reasons why, it's mostly is because of like labor laws.
Hmm.
Actually, I guess since that minors can only work for so many hours,
Yes.
and I mean, heck, even back when they first cast Tom Holland as Spider-Man for Captain America: Civil War, one of the reasons why they cast him was because he was 19 at that time, but he looked like he was 14.
Yeah, true.
And then yeah, and then that was one of the things like that was praised for it, like was the fact that people were saying, "Oh, finally, he finally looks like he's in high school."
Yes, finally.
After all this time. And then there were all these memes of like people saying, "Oh, so it's Spider Boy now."
Yeah. That's so funny.
That it was, yeah. And so you mentioned that you were in a horror film. Are you yourself a horror movie fan?
I haven't watched a lot of horror movies actually. I love thrillers. I love murder mystery stuff. The actual horror stuff I haven't quite like ever delved into. I don't know. I think I'm more scared because I don't know if I can handle it or not. But I love like thrillers and things that are a bit eerie. So I might like it.
Oh yeah, certainly so. And I would say that it really depends on what horror movie it is, like that you get into.
Hmm.
If you're gonna have anybody get introduced to the horror genre, probably the Human Centipede is not going to be your best choice.
Yeah, probably.
Oh God, that movie forever traumatized
Oh
me,
no.
especially if you know the concept.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't like it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's totally not a movie for the whole family.
Yeah, probably not.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and so you also mentioned that you did theater as well, and yeah, and honestly, that's one of the most common things like that I've heard actors say, like actors in film. A lot of them actually have said like that they started off doing that, and
Yeah. I think it's a really good start because then you learn how to like, because when you're in theater, you have to memorize all your lines to give right then and there. It's not like you can take breaks in between. And so it really like trains you to be able to do that well. And so for when you do have auditions and stuff, it's definitely you're well equipped, I think.
certainly, yeah, and you probably will agree with this assessment. I think theater acting is a lot harder than film.
It is hard, especially to do it well because it's easy to just be melodramatic because you got to be loud. But I think to be a good theater actor is very, very hard, but some people can do it really well.
Yeah, I mean, considering that you don't get any breaks, and that if you mess up, it's not like that you can just go back and retake that shot like in film. Like you have to keep going.
Yeah, you keep going. Show must go on.
Certainly, yeah, and yeah, and then knowing that if you mess up your line, well, then you messed up.
It's true.
And yeah, and nothing is more embarrassing than when you are on stage and you forgot one of your lines.
Yes, it's definitely a panicked moment. I think I was in a musical called The Wind in the Willows, and one of the nights I had done like completely fine all through rehearsals, and we'd done like 3 or 4 shows already, and I was like the female lead in that one, and so it's very important this song that I had to sing, and like right before I went on, I started to blank on it, and I'm like. Oh, like, and I was checking with other people, like, is this the lines? Is this the lines? And I think I just psyched myself out, and I went on the stage, the music was going, and I thought it's just gonna hit me when I get up there, and it did not. And so I sang the same lyrics twice in a row. No one in the audience noticed, but of course all of my cast and crew were like, she just sang the same exact lyrics. But I was like, it completely left me. And then the next performances we did after that, I didn't forget, but it was just a moment of like, oh my gosh, like you gotta go with the fly, you gotta go with whatever you have right then and there because people are waiting for you.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's one of those things like that. It can take weight off your shoulders. Is that knowing that the audience itself didn't notice,
Hmm.
and so that's good because if they did notice, it would make it that much more embarrassing. But it does suck still knowing that the rest of the cast noticed and even some of the crew noticed too.
Yeah, thankfully there's grace because they also had their fair share of mess ups too.
Yeah, and I mean, heck, even my first time doing theater, that's the same thing that happened to me as well. And then afterwards, it was a motivator, like for me to push myself that much harder to memorize all of my lines.
Yeah,
So yeah, and I mean, there's an all-time saying goes that failure is the greatest teacher that you will ever have.
it's true. It's true. And listening to people's criticisms and helpful knowledge and knowing that you probably aren't always right and then learning so much from them too.
Certainly, yeah, and it's one of those things where like you really do gotta swallow your ego about it.
It's true. It's true. It's the only way you're going to learn. Like, you can't accept that you know everything or you'll learn nothing.
Exactly, yeah, exactly. And so yeah, and so out of all of the theater roles that you have done, what would you say was your favorite one?
Well, the one that I just said, I played Mrs. Otter in the Southern premiere of The Wind in the Willows, written by Julian Fellows. And that was the most fun because it was my first time really being a prominent lead. And I was like, it was majority male leads. And so I was the one female lead. And that was really fun to just be able to have that moment and to be able to sing all these songs. And just, I love being on stage. And so, like, getting that role, I got to be on stage a lot and I got to help
Awesome.
with the main plot of the story. So I loved Wind in the Willows. At first, I didn't know what to think of it because, I think I was disappointed that I was going to be an otter, like not a human being, but an otter in this play. But then you get on stage and you just realize it doesn't matter what you're doing. You just love it so much.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I mean ultimately, it is experience.
It's true.
Yeah, like hey, like I had a similar experience when like where I hated country music for the majority of my life, but then fast forward to this year and what happens to me, I was in a country music video. So
Yes. And then you got to love it. You got to learn to love it.
exactly, yeah, and then and then ultimately when you become more open to like to opportunities like that, it just allows you well, like to grow that much more.
It's true. You don't limit yourself. Just keep going, learn new things. And I mean, the worst that could happen is you get to the end of a project and be like, okay, I just probably won't do something like that again. But then you learned that. You wouldn't have learned that before.
Yeah, 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 exactly. And so I'm assuming that when you played an otter, did they have you wear like a onesie costume or what?
Thankfully, I got to select my outfit, and so I got a striped red dress from it looked like a 1950s dress, and so I had like a little puffy skirt, but I got it from Amazon, so I had like red stripes on, so it kind of gave a little, I don't know, we kind of set the otter vibe for the audience, but yeah, thankfully it wasn't anything that was too appalling for me to wear.
Right, yeah, exactly. And I mean, especially for something like that.
Hmm.
But yeah, did they have you wear any face makeup?
I had to wear like a little, like, I had to like paint my nose black and then, put a lot of blush on my cheeks and things like that. Thankfully, like, I know I've seen other versions of the play where they have like a full on mask on and everything, like to look like an otter. And thankfully, I didn't have to do that. So,
Awesome. Yeah, and one of the really hard things about face paint and just wearing makeup for any role, having to resist that urge to itch it.
yeah, yeah. Cause then you're like this, and then you're like, oh, dang it, I got makeup on my finger.
Yeah, exactly. Because that's what happened to me, like with my first ever film role, where I was a zombie and I had like a ton of makeup on my face. And even worse is that it was during like the boiling hot summer,
Oh, no.
and having to resist itching that. Oh God,
Oh,
it
man.
was hard.
Yeah.
But yeah, certainly, yeah. And so it sounds like that you more so transitioned into film acting, or do you still do or do you still do theater, or what?
Um, well, at the school that I currently go to, we don't have theater. And so, theater I kind of did a lot in high school and then below. And so I would still love to if the opportunity came along, but right now I'm more focusing on filmmaking and directing and acting all while I'm in college and then wanting to do that full time after I graduate.
Okay, cool, awesome. Well, I certainly do wish you the best of luck on all that.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, yeah, certainly. And so yeah, so you also mentioned like that you write scripts. But yeah, tell uh tell my audience like about what kind of scripts you have written.
Yes, so I've been writing scripts since I was 12 years old. I remember the moment I discovered I could do that, and I was like, "Oh, so like I don't have to wait for a movie to like be made. I could write a story that I want to see." Even though I knew, some of them, most of them weren't going to go anywhere. It was just the joy of writing. So I write in a lot of genres. I've written fantasy, I've written murder mysteries, I've written um, British drama TV shows. I've written Holocaust movies. I've written true life stories based on my own life. I've written like Revolutionary War stories. And then most recently, my scripts that I've actually directed, one of them was called We Were Happy. And that was my first film to direct. And then the second one that I directed and wrote recently is called Timeless. And it's a 1940s love story. So, yeah, all sorts of things.
Nice, awesome. Yeah, and so with that one, did you actually get it turned into a film?
Timeless?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we shot it this summer. So I've been working on it for like almost a couple years now. But we shot it this past summer, like in July. So yes, it's in post production right now.
Awesome. And are you gonna put that out on YouTube, or what?
So this project, it's been big work for a long time, and so we're going to start submitting it to film festivals in January, and then have a hopefully a year-long film festival run. And my producer has been getting a lot of stuff ready for that, and so right now we are having the soundtrack composed, and that will be finished by the end of the year, and then we'll get to send it on. And so that's like how people will be able to see it, will be the film festivals if it gets into them.
Okay, cool. Yeah, because I was gonna say that if it's gonna go on like Tubi or Amazon or YouTube or whatever, excuse me, I definitely would be willing to like share it and all that.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, 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 certainly. And so is that like a short film or a feature length, or
Yeah,
what?
it's a short film. And so it's supposed to look like an old black and white silent film. And
Okay.
so there is no dialogue in it. It is music and sound effects, and that's how the film is carried. It's very visual. And so I love that challenge of being able to see if there's no dialogue, can you still communicate a good story? Because I feel like a lot of people add a lot of dialogue into makeup that they have a story lacking. And so that was my big challenge and biggest excitement, was to film something that was completely visual.
Oh yeah, and and now that you mentioned that, one of the things that what I think made the Circle of Life and the Lion King so memorable is the fact that there's not any dialogue, but yet you know exactly what all the characters are thinking.
It's true. It's true. I think that's really a good tell of someone's creativity.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Exactly. And there's an old time saying, show and do not tell.
It's true.
So yeah, and so have you written any other films?
I was writing one that I was going to pitch to a film company about my grandmother. And then currently, I just finished yesterday. I've been, what, so my lead actor, his name's Jordan Pope in Timeless. He and I have been writing um, a movie together since March. And as in planning it out, we haven't even written the script yet, but we've been planning the plot out since March and like calling twice a week, every single week, for like 2 hours minimum, to just talk through and like, create the story. And it's about a young man who plays the cello and he has a big dream of playing with the symphony and then he gets cancer. And so how is he going to navigate those two things and still like not lose who he is in the midst of this? So yeah, I'm really excited about that one. We hope to pitch it to some film companies.
Wow, I mean, that one sounds like that it has a very, very powerful arc.
Yes, yes, and it's very meaningful. We've also like contributed a lot of our own personal lives into the story, and so it becomes something that is very unique.
Yeah, and going back to The Lion King, like back when that movie like was being scored like by Hans Zimmer, one of the things that he said, which I feel like which can speak about not just composing a film, but also writing it and acting into it. One of the things that he said is that if you're not going to pour your heart and soul into it, then what's the point?
It's true. It's true, and no one can do it like you do it, And so it's like whatever you put in of yourself, no one can imitate that.
Oh, yeah, certainly so. And then, and just knowing that you're putting your own personal life into it, I just feel like it just adds that vulnerability, like, to all the characters.
It's true.
Yeah, and it's because ultimately you want to have a character like who the audience can, like, who they can cheer for.
It's true. Yeah, for sure. And I think this lead character, I really like how real he feels and in his struggles too, not just with his disease, but just in life. And I think it's very relatable to a lot of people.
Oh yeah, certainly. So it's because I've known so many people like who have had to deal with medical issues and yeah, and it can suck like having to deal with all the hospital bills and how are you going to deal with that mentally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's hard.
It is, yeah. But hey, one of the things that I was taught in college about your character's arc is that the more you bring your character down, the greater the arc is.
Yeah.
But yeah, certainly. Well, that sounds very, very exciting.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it. Especially it's been like a long time coming and now we're excited to just start on the script because we've been waiting to do that for months.
Yeah, yeah, and one of the hardest parts about filmmaking is to get the funding.
Yeah, yeah. In Timeless, we had to fundraise like $5,000, but the Lord was good, and we got all of it funded, and it was amazing how it all came about.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that I definitely do recommend is something that I wish I would have known about. They're actually like our film grants.
Yeah,
So yeah, so definitely do check out film grants. I mean, of course, you also have to check out the eligibility for all that, but yeah, film grants definitely do help.
for sure.
Yeah, and it's just a shame because I feel like that not enough people know about film grants.
Yeah, I started learning about them when I first started, and yeah, it can be a challenge, but it can be a big help.
Definitely, yeah, definitely. And but yeah, I mean, it just really depends on what your log line is, and it just really depends on it just really depends on your film itself.
hmm
So yeah, so do you have any other script writing experience?
Well, I worked for a company called Kingdom Story Company. They made the movie Jesus Revolution and recently Ordinary Angels Unsung Hero, and they have the best Christmas pageant ever coming out. Um, I think in November or December. And so I worked for them for a summer, and my job was script coverage. And so we would get sent scripts into the office, and I would basically be the first person who reads them. We had a heavy critiquing process and filter it through. And let's say I read the script and it's amazing and it checks all the boxes, then I send it on to my boss. And if he reads it and loves it, he sends it on to our heads, our head directors and stuff. And if they love it, they'll make the movie. But usually with mine, I would immediately reject it because there's a lot of things that fell through when reading the scripts. But I loved doing that, and it was a wonderful, wonderful experience.
Awesome, yeah, and I mean, ultimately, that is what the film industry is all about. It's, like, it really is about getting as much experience in as you possibly can, even if it's something that's not your cup of tea. Like a good example, Jamie Lee Curtis, she's been vocal saying that she's not a fan of horror movies, but yet she also has acknowledged like that the original Halloween is what got her name out there. So,
True, true.
so yeah, certainly so. And well, I am definitely. Oh,
Dang it.
definitely caught my attention.
My phone fell over.
Oh, that's right. I mean, I have had that happen so many times. But yeah, it happens to the best of us. But yeah, and I mean, ultimately, I am definitely very glad to hear that you're getting all of that experience. It is because like your future self definitely will thank you.
Yeah, I'm very thankful to the Lord and for all the people who've gotten me this far, because honestly, it really is about connections.
It is.
And just like meeting some amazing people who are like, someone did this for me, so I'm gonna help you. And that's honestly what I feel inside when I meet film people who love film and they're like, don't know where to start. I'm like, I know people, like, let me get you on a set and then we can work together. And then now they know these people that I knew, and it just like creates a family, because I feel like the Dallas film community, which is where I live, is full of like amazing film people who I've gotten to work with, and everyone always knows someone you've worked with, and so it's very connected.
Oh yeah, certainly so. And I just feel like that just really adds to like the whole family feel to it.
For sure. It does feel like a family. And that was my biggest thing on my set time list that I really wanted before anything. Yes, we're filming a movie, but I wanted us to have fun and I wanted us to all bond and become a family. And I think we really did. We were on set for 8 days all together, staying the night on set. And we had movie nights and just like all went out for food. And everyone cried when they had to leave because everyone had become so close. And so it's the best part of making movies.
Oh yeah, certainly so. And then and then it's memories like that that you'll cherish throughout the rest of your life.
True. And we have those connections forever. Like I think we're planning like some sort of trip we can all go and like reunite.
That's amazing. Yeah. And then as soon as you say something like that, you know, it just instantly reminds me of like a high school reunion.
Yes, yeah, it does.
But yeah, certainly so. And yeah, and I mean, what I've learned, if you meet the right people, anything can happen.
That's very true, for sure.
Definitely, yeah. Like, like even some of these things that people say are impossible, but if you meet the right people, the impossible then can become possible.
Really, really, for sure. Like the guy who got me connected with Kingdom Story Company went to my church, and I had sent him an email, and then I had gone on a walk, and he was on that same trail I was walking on, and so I got to talk to him there. And then like just so many other people, like my professors, who've gotten me connected to people, and just like, yeah. And then just from different film sets I've been on, meeting someone who's like, oh, I'm also making a movie, do you want to help on that? And it's like, yeah, I do. And it's great.
Oh yeah, certainly so. And yeah, and but yeah, and I mean, life is just one big ad. I mean, life is just one big adventure.
It's true.
Certainly so. And so yeah, so you also said that you have some directing experience. So I'm assuming that with some of the scripts that you've written, I'm assuming that you're going to be behind the camera for that as well.
Yes. So for We Were Happy was my first film to direct, and it was after I had finished at Kingdom Story Company. I knew I wanted to actually do something with what I've written, and I didn't know I could actually do it, but with with people telling me like you can do it actually, and I'm a very passionate person, and so somehow it all came together and it was a miracle and it was so much fun. And sure, like, your first project's never going to be your best project, but you learn so much, and I learned so much, and I had a blast directing that one and getting to see what I had written come to life. And then with Timeless, I've spent so much more time on that one, and directing it was truly a joy because I got to just I love hosting, and so it felt like I was like hosting this big event, and I got to bring on all my favorite people all in one place, and I got to make sure people were taken care of, and I got to see this story that I'd worked so hard on come to life, and my actors and my crew take it so seriously as if this was their baby as well. And yeah, it was just directing that was probably one of the best experiences of my whole life.
Yeah, which is yeah, and I mean, yeah, and I mean, hearing that's great. And if it makes you feel any better, even all the big time people like Spielberg and Christopher Nolan, even a lot of them started off doing very amateur movies, and not the greatest of movies ever made. But hey, I mean, everyone got has to start somewhere.
For sure. And like there's the movie The Fablemans that Spielberg recently directed a couple years ago, and it was about him essentially starting out and just like having fun with it. And I think if a person wants to go into this industry because they want to be famous, they're not going to get far because it's so much rejection. You have to go in loving it, even though you might not get paid or you might not, get recognized. You just have to do it because you love it, and then just see where it takes you from there. And it's the passion that really gets you places and like gets you further than someone who just wants it for like
For
their own
fame.
gain.
Yeah, and yeah, and that's the exact same thing that I've been saying to people. It's like, if you're gonna do it for the right reasons. And I mean, say for argument's sakes, if you do get famous for it, well, then that should only be a result of all of your hard work. And ultimately, it's what you do with the fame that counts. But
Hmm.
ultimately, you should never, ever, ever do anything just for fame, because I feel like if you do it just for fame, it makes you look like a pretty arrogant person.
Yeah, and I think I heard an interview from Matt Damon. He said he was glad he got an Oscar when he was young because he realized when he got it, it just came to clear to him. It's not everything, It's like that moment's great, but then it's gone. And he's like, if I had waited my whole life to get an Oscar, I would have been so disappointed if that's what I had lived for. And so he said that he's just like he got it young for Good Will Hunting, and then got to move on and realize there's so much better, more greater things in life.
Yeah, which interesting enough, I actually honestly never even heard of like that whole story. And so yeah, and so there's that saying like that you do learn something new every day.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, that is extremely interesting. But yeah, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
But yeah, yeah, yeah. And yeah, wow, that's very, very interesting. And yeah, and about Matt Damon, from what I heard, he started off doing background roles for the longest time, and then and then eventually he worked his way up, and so and so that goes to show, like, just because it's a background role, it doesn't mean that it can't lead to something. It doesn't mean it can't lead into something later on.
Yeah, it always counts. It really does, even for your own personal growth. And if you love it, it's just another chance to be on a set.
Certainly, yeah, and yeah, and I mean, ultimately, if that's what fulfills your life the most, well, then that's what matters, because life is just way too short to not go do what you love.
Yeah, true. Like, I think it's a big blessing that we've been gifted in so many ways that we can all come together. And that's what I love about a film set is just everyone on there is so valuable, and everyone has different gifts, and they all come together, and it creates something like I think what I realized when I first acted on my first movie set is like acting, you are not it's not just about you, because I think, when you watch a movie, all you're thinking about is, oh, the actors, because that's who you're seeing. But when you get there, you realize how vital everyone is and how gifted everyone is. And that's what you get to celebrate each other's gifts when you're together, like creating something like that. And I've realized that even as a director, is like, I could not do my job without the PAs. I could not do my job without anyone. And it was truly so humbling to experience.
Certainly, yeah, and I mean, like that, knowing that lighting, is a vital part, is because the audience obviously has to see what
Yeah.
is happening because there was one time me and some friends went and saw a movie a year ago. I'm not going to say what the movie was, but the lighting was pretty bad, and all of us agreed that it was bad, and
Oh,
we could hardly tell what was even happening. And we figured out it wasn't just us; it was everybody else in the theater too. And then we were like, okay, maybe it was just the theater itself. But then we rewatched the movie when it got released on DVD and all that, and it was still bad. And so we
oh
were like,
no.
okay, so that definitely was not the fault of the theater. Then it was just really bad lighting.
Yeah, that sounds unfortunate.
It is, yeah, and also sound because there have been times where I will watch a movie with somebody, and then the moment there's bad sound, they then instantly want to shut it off.
No, it's true. Sound is so important. And we realized that when we were filming my first movie, We Were Happy, is like the last scene, essentially, our SD card somehow got, I don't know what happened to it. And when we put it into the computer, all the audio from the last scene was gone. And so we had to have our actors voice over their lines. And so it just made it very choppy, and it really stunk because you're like, okay, sound is so important, and you realize that. And thankfully for Timeless, we didn't have to use sound, so that was honestly a huge blessing because there was so much noise outside when we were filming. So I don't know how we would have done it if there had been sound.
I had a similar experience making my first movie where the audio was just too was bad because of all of the wind. So I had to have one of my actors re-record their lines, but to have them match it like with the movement of their jaw,
Yeah,
oh
it's
my god,
it's hard.
yeah, you nailed it. It's really hard. Like it's not as easy as it sounds. Like it's a straight up pain, and I can and you just feel bad like for the actors having to redo it.
Hmm. Yeah,
Hi there.
it's just my roommate.
Okay. Okay, cool. But yeah, well, I'm definitely sorry to hear about that. Definitely sorry to hear
Oh, it's fine.
about
It was,
that. I
again,
have
it
to
was
say.
just learning.
But hey, and I mean, ultimately, that's one of the big parts about the film journey is like, you just have to learn.
It's true. Yeah.
Certainly, yeah. Because if you don't learn well, then ultimately you're not going to get far at all.
Yeah.
Certainly, yeah. And so yeah, and so yeah, and so how long have you been in? So yeah, so how long have you been in film school for?
Well, I'm not actually going to film school. I'm
Okay.
an English major, and I'm getting a communications minor. So a lot of storytelling, a lot of reading, a lot of writing. Because I think I can take that um, on to and apply it to what I want to do. But yeah, I do film just on the side, and while I'm doing my degree, and then once I'm done with my degree, I plan to try to do it full time if I can.
Awesome. Well, I just want you to know that, I just want you to know that I definitely will be cheering you on.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, certainly, of course, and I mean, ultimately, if you work hard at it, and if you work hard enough, anything can happen.
Yeah, and I think giving up is so easy, but that is not what I want to do.
Definitely not, because there's a saying that I once heard: "You only fail only when you stop trying."
Yeah. Hmm.
And, and then afterwards, you and then will have to deal with all that regret, like when years and years go by, and you reflect back on your life, and you go, "Oh man, I really shouldn't have given up."
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I think I've heard so many stories of people being like, I was about to give up and then I got my chance. So I think it's worth it.
Certainly, yeah, and reminds me of a saying that every no is going to bring you closer to your yes.
Yes, no is an answer as well. It's just a
It
door
is,
shut so another one can open.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And I mean, ultimately, if you get that no, well, then that just tells you it just wasn't meant to be.
Yes.
Certainly, yeah, and so yeah, and so yeah, and so with you going to college, like for English, are you wanting to be like a teacher?
No, I don't necessarily want to teach. I just did the English major because I enjoy learning about like all the books and that I'm reading in the literature, and then I love writing, and so the essays are actually fun because then I can try to find an argument for something and of a book I read, or even like my professors know I really love film, and so like right now for my I'm in the honors program, so for my senior thesis, I'm getting to write on redemption in film. That's a broad kind of view of it, but
Oh, it
through
is.
the
Yeah.
film Schindler's List is what I'm focusing on. And so I love it. I love learning. I don't really want to teach. Obviously, like if that's what I need to do in the meantime, I'm willing to do anything. But I definitely just did it because I love to learn.
Awesome, yeah, and and funny that you mentioned redemption because there are so many movies that have resonated with so many people, and what
Hmm.
I've noticed, one of the most common traits about it is that people definitely love that. People love to see that character go through that redemption. Like even going back to what I said about Lion King
Hmm.
and even like the Shawshank Redemption and
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and I think it mirrors our own redemption in Christ, which is what everyone longs for. And and so those redemption stories are so relatable because it gives people so much hope, you know? And I think something that I've been noticing is like when redemption happens is when we've realized we've become like our enemy and we want to change and we desire to be redeemed. And so that's that's what I think is so beautiful about those stories.
Oh yeah, and which is why that I say that like that which is why like that it resonates with audiences so much.
Yeah. Hmm.
Certainly, yeah. And so yeah, so what are some of your favorite movies?
Oh man, I love again because I write so many genres. It's because I've been inspired by so many genres. But I think one of my favorite movies is The Patriot, Mel Gibson's The Patriot, because it's just everything that film should be. It's exciting, it's emotional, it's powerful, it's so well acted and well told and well directed. It's incredible. I love that movie. I love The Help. That's a great film. Let me think. What sounds good? I love Pride and Prejudice, Little Women, the 2019 Little Women. It's just I love Marriage Story. When I see so much intentionality put into not just the story, but like even the cinematography and the lighting, like it just is, it's art. It's beautiful art. So yeah.
But yeah, when you said The Help, isn't that the one that had what's her face like from the Amazing Spider-Man, Emma?
Emma Stone.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yes. I love that movie. And I've read the book, so
Oh,
it's
honestly, I actually had no idea that it's based off of a book.
yeah, the book's really powerful. I had watched the movie and then I didn't know there was a book, but then I found out there was a book and I was in high school. And so I read the book. And then when I finished the book, I realized I was so scared to start another book because nothing could be as good. That's what I thought.
Yeah, and there's an old-time saying like that goes, a lot of people will say that the book is better than the movie. But yeah, and so in your own opinion, did you feel like that the book was better or what?
I think the book was so rich that I understand why the movie couldn't put everything in it because there's so much goodness. But I loved the book better, for sure, because it had so much more. But the movie did such a good job with what it could do because the story is like endless in its beauty.
Yeah, and yeah, like while I do get why a lot of people say that, it's just that like that with the book, you can have it be as long as you want, but with the movie, I mean, sometimes you can get away with it being 4 hours long, but there's not really a whole lot of movies that can.
Yeah, no one really wants to sit there for 4 hours.
Yeah, because that's definitely a very big time commitment, and that's actually why that I didn't watch like the director's cut like of Justice League for the longest time
Yeah.
because it's so long, and I'm like, that's asking for a lot of my time.
True, true.
Yeah, and I mean that's why that it's really impressive knowing that Titanic made as much money as it did, considering that that's a 4 hour long film.
Yeah, it's a beautiful film. I love that film.
Certainly, yeah, and and I just can't help but smile. It's because it is because I just it's because of all of the memes about it. But yeah, I definitely feel like Titanic. It's definitely a very memeable film.
It's yeah, it has some moments for sure.
Definitely, yeah, and especially during that scene, like where they're on that door, like out of all moments in the film, it's definitely that one like that's gotten the most memes out of it.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Yeah, matter of fact, I believe that that was Leonardo DiCaprio's first film, actually.
Really? I thought he did a lot of films when he was like a kid.
Yeah, I think. Well, I think that was his first movie, that really got him big. But I mean,
It
before that,
definitely did.
certainly, yeah, and I think he did do like a low budget independent horror movie before then. But yeah, I think you're probably right. I think that he probably did do some movies beforehand, and
Yeah.
yeah, and according to my research, he was not the first choice. Uh,
Yeah.
what I read, Christian Bale was one of the original choices, and I
Wow.
can't see it.
That would have been interesting. I'm always curious to know like if another actor had played that role, like what would have the film been like?
Yeah, yeah, certainly. And I also heard like that Matthew McConaughey like was one of the original choices.
Oh wow.
So in your own opinion, how do you feel about knowing that it was almost going to be those two?
I don't know. I think obviously Leonardo DiCaprio makes that film what it is, you know? So I
Certainly,
think it shouldn't have been in any other way because I think the other actors would have missed out on other opportunities that really got them to where they were, you know? So I think it all worked out, but I would like to see a Christian Bale version, not a remake, but if he had
yeah,
done
yeah,
it,
yeah.
I would have watched it.
Well, heck, I mean, knowing that nowadays, like with deep fake technology, I'm pretty sure that somebody probably could just deep fake his face onto it.
Oh dear. I don't know if that'd be as enjoyable knowing it's not really him.
Yeah, I mean, it could be kind of creepy. Like somebody did that, like with The Shining. Like instead
Ugh.
of instead of Jack, instead of Jack, they and then deep faked Jim Carrey's face onto it.
Oh no.
It was creepy, but yet it kind of was effective. I'm like, okay, now I can actually see Jim Carrey in that role.
That'd be interesting for him to play like a really serious role like that.
Oh, definitely, yeah. I mean, knowing that Jim Carrey has played serious roles close to that, like he did do the number 23.
Yeah, he. I think the best actors are the comedians because they, when they are acting, they're acting like they're serious. They're not trying to be funny. They're trying to be serious, and that comes off as funny. So that means they're even better at doing the serious roles.
Oh, yeah, certainly so. And I've met so many people who say, oh, funny people can't do serious. I'm like, you know, I'm just going to tell Jim Carrey, hold my beer.
No, yeah, I think Jason Sudeikis is a really good example because he did SNL, he had all that stuff, and then he
Yeah, yeah.
recently did Ted Lasso, and that's a sure he's kind of funny in that show, but like it's mainly really pretty serious and heavy stuff, and so he did that so well, and I was like blown away by his acting.
Certainly, yeah. And I mean, heck, you even mentioned Good Will Hunting. I mean, Robin Williams also was a
Yeah.
really I mean, yeah, like Robin even showed that he can.
No, yeah, for sure, one of the most incredible actors to ever live.
Yeah, and it just feels crazy knowing that this year marks the 10-year anniversary of when he passed away.
I know, I remember that day. That was really really sad.
That it was, yeah, and especially with the ways that how he went, knowing that something like that could have been easily prevented.
Yeah, it's really sad.
It is, yeah, and well, yeah, and I mean, heck, I mean, Robin Williams, he certainly left behind one heck of a legacy, though.
He did, still making people laugh today and cry
Certainly,
in Good Will Hunting.
certainly, yeah, and so it sounds like, in your opinion, that your favorite Robin Williams movie probably would be Goodwill Hunting.
Yeah, I love that one for sure, but I also love Dead Poet Society as well.
I never have actually seen
Oh my gosh, it's amazing. It's so well worth your time, especially since it's fall now. It's definitely 'tis the season.
Makes sense, yeah. But yeah, I definitely will be sure to check that film out.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, heck, I mean, knowing that the original Aladdin was the very first movie that I ever saw, and so therefore, you know, Robin is always is gonna have a special place in my heart.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, even going back to Jim Carrey, I heard that when they were doing the Aladdin remake, the original choices who they wanted for the genie was either Jim Carrey or Gabriel Iglesias.
Hmm.
Yeah, interesting choices because I mean, I feel like if they would have went with Jim Carrey, it would have been a good choice. It's because that he's not the same kind of comedian like as Robin is, and so then therefore I feel like that it could have helped to separate his version.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, and yeah, and so I mentioned like the live action Disney remakes. What are what are your thoughts on them?
I think the best one is the live action Cinderella. I think that was beautifully directed. It's faithful to the story, but it adds really beautiful things that are so relatable to it. And I think Lily James is wonderful. It's my favorite movie. I remember going to see that with my family. And Beauty and the Beast is really good too. The other ones I haven't been as impressed with, to be honest. So
Yeah, I would say the same thing. It's like look, I get it. They have bills to pay and all that, and I get it. But a lot of them, in my opinion, felt very formulaic, like where it's basically the same movie, but they pad it on, and then some of the most essential scenes actually get cut.
yeah, my thing is like with the Mulan, they cut all the songs, and that was the part of Mulan that we most connected to. That really helped bring the mood of the story and the theme, and so it was a good film, but like I wish they had added in the music.
Yeah, and what I also heard about it is like that I heard that they took away from her arc, like rather than like her like earning that throughout the movie, she just has it the whole entire time.
Mm,
And yeah, and I heard that they wanted it to be more realistic and they wanted to appeal to the Chinese market, and so that's why that they got rid of Mushu. But instead of Mushu, they had a phoenix, and I'm like, that's not realistic. I
oh my gosh,
There it goes again.
I know. Oh my gosh.
But yeah, and what I also heard about the Mulan remake is that they got rid of Shang, and yeah, when that was first revealed on Facebook, I saw a lot of people were not happy.
Hmm.
Yeah, and then yeah, and then in the Lion King remake, like how Be Prepared was only like a few seconds long.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people were not happy.
Yeah, it's mixed emotions when it's like something that connected with someone's childhood and it's different. Some people want change and some people don't. And so for me, I'm just like, it's not the end all be all. So I'll go see it, but I'm not going to really have strong opinions just because I'm like, there's more things to battle over in this life.
Yeah, especially over something as petty as a movie. But yeah, and I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, you just really just can't please everybody.
It's true.
Yeah, and even if you try, you are going to fail.
Yeah, I think people should just tell the story that they're most passionate about that they love for themselves and then bring along the people who love it too.
Yeah. Certainly, yeah. And and yeah, well, I think that just about does her. Besides all the projects that you were talking about, are there any other projects coming out of yours like that you would want your audience to be aware of, like like can I follow you like on any other forms of social media?
Yeah, so my Instagram is at stories by Sumlin, and we have two different social media pages for the movies that I've directed. One's at We Were Happy Film, and the other one is at Timeless the Short Film. And I have another movie coming out called Classic that I am the lead actress in that one,
Awesome.
and it involves a classic Porsche 911, and yeah, that's coming out. I think the Instagram is like classic short film. I think there's an underscore somewhere in there, but
Okay.
yeah, that movie's coming out soon. It's going to be in film festivals, hopefully. So yeah, that's what I have on the docket.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Well, I definitely will be sure to share. But yeah, I definitely will be sure to share all that, just to help to spread the word about it.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, yeah, certainly, of course. And so, yeah, one of the things that I always have my guests do is that, a lot of times we are discouraged, like, from pursuing our dreams of, film or just whichever it is. What would be your advice, like, to anybody who wants to pursue their dreams?
I think we all can get easily wrapped up in it as our identity, of like, if I don't have this, I'm nothing, So I would caution people to just remember, like, their identity is not in those things. It's in the Lord, and their gifts that they've been given. It's a blessing, and just use that for the joy that's come with it, don't be discouraged. Like, keep fighting for what you love, but it's not who you are, and you're worth so much more. And I hope people can know that.
Awesome. I certainly greatly do appreciate you sharing all that.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, certainly, of course, and yeah, and I certainly do appreciate, but yeah, I certainly do appreciate you taking time out of your day to be here.
of course. Thank you so much. This was a joy.
Certainly, of course, but yeah, you and I definitely will keep in touch.
For sure. Thank you so much.
Yeah, yeah, of course. You have a fantastic day.
You too. Bye.
Alrighty, bye.